you seeing as maybe the most pressing issues that your clients are facing in 2025 specifically?
Sure. I think housing, 100% housing law continues to be the main point. It's just the perfect, if you will, intersection of rising costs, stagnant incomes, less available low-income housing opportunities, and then that coupled by, especially in Indiana, typically being a landlord-friendly state, for a long time, landlords going to court represented with people facing eviction not having that option. So once someone gets an eviction on their record because they don't know, maybe they can come up with a move-out agreement, or they don't have support to keep that off their record or get an old eviction sealed, in a competitive environment, their applications are not going to be considered. And so it makes it harder and harder then find subsequent housing. There's more families living in hotels, more homelessness. So I think housing continues to be the number one area we see that need. It's why it's the focus of our fundraising event this year. We started with housing because our housing crisis isn't going anywhere. There's less low income housing units available. And so that with inflation and more pressure on a household economy, I think puts more folks who haven't faced an eviction, one crisis away from dealing with a housing crisis. And then those who have dealt with a housing crisis are almost edged out of the market from finding subsequent housing. So I don't think the housing crisis is going anywhere soon. I think our city is doing what it can to support it, but we certainly do our part in trying to negotiate settlements and support those facing a housing transition from having that on their record, to put them in the best position for making that transition to another place that maybe they can afford. And second to that, only because I think legal aid finds it particularly challenging to address, would be family law. Family law needs are often a variety of needs within a family law case, and they often go on over time, especially when there's children with new issues arising, and it's hard to scope those services. And so I think legal aid providers find it challenging to provide support in family law proceedings. And we certainly, things like economic and housing crises, I think, exacerbate family crises. So we continue to see that need be very high as well.
And how much of your staffing and services to clients is people on your team versus attorneys doing pro bono work with your clinic?
We are very heavily staff dependent. Attorney volunteer engagement is just not where it was, I think, 10, 15 years ago. And that's not just for us. I think that's true. When you have an attorney shortage, attorneys are very busy with their, trying to keep up with the need for their day job, if you will. And so, we always encourage attorneys like, hey, if you can give an hour here, an hour there, we can use you on Monday mornings, helping provide legal triage. You don't need to be an expert in all of these areas to help someone who doesn't understand a document that came in the mail, understand it and give them some resources. And we're even trying to be creative and make some of those options like virtual, where someone could provide some online legal help, or follow up and schedule a Zoom session to meet with someone who needs some help. But we certainly are, I think, surprisingly staff driven in an area where we could expand our capacity without, having to raise a bunch of support to do so, if we had more attorney volunteers specifically be willing to engage in our work.